Welcome to, where are we at? This is World Indigenous Literature 60629 Spring 2017 online course for Madison College. So if that's where you're supposed to be, then you're in the right place. Hi, my name is Michael McDaniel. I will be your instructor for the course. I'm going to try something totally new. I've taught online before for like 3 or 4 years for the college. I developed all the native lit online sections that are up and running today. I've recently moved to Bellingham, Washington, so I'm going to be teaching this course from, you'll have to apologize if my cat gets in the way, or if my dog barks, or if anything like that. I've got critters roaming around here. So anyway, I'm living in Bellingham, Washington. So I'm working I also work as an advisor at the Northwest Indian College on the Lummi Nation, which is near Bellingham, Washington. So I'm now living in Bellingham and working on the Lummi. I'll be a couple hours ahead of you. I've taught at the college for about 4 years, or 5 years at this point. So this is something new. So what I'm going to do, I've taught online before. I've had really rigid, sort of maybe overly structured online courses before, with discussion sections and journals and like 5 response papers. I want to try to do something that I haven't tried before. So this one, like, there's sink or fell, depending on what we think we learn from it going forward. But the class is going to be structured. It's in the syllabus. I would advise you to take a look at the syllabus. If you're, the Blackboard page is going to be set up really, really simply. I'm going to give you weekly announcements about the course. You'll have the syllabus to follow along. You'll have a weekly discussion post, and I'll talk more about that in a second. You'll need to make 1 discussion post every week, and then you're going to write 1 summative essay at the end of the semester. And we'll talk about more about the summative essay as we sort of get towards the end of the semester. All you really need to worry about is the 1 discussion post a week and doing your readings. The discussion posts are kind of interesting. I don't know how many of you have ever done any sort of scholarly research. Maybe you did it in English 2. Maybe you've done it in one of your other classes where you've navigated databases, or you've looked around online for Google and other sources, Google Scholar, just general. These days we have an awful lot of information at our fingertips. And believe it or not, there's an awful lot of information at our fingertips about indigenous communities around the globe. And this idea of indigeneity and how it sort of stretches around the globe. And by indigenous or indigeneity, what we're talking about in this class are communities of people, cultures of people, people living in places that have been living there for all intents and purposes for as long as they can remember. And at some point they were touched by Western colonialism that sort of created this very concept of something known as indigenous and indigeneity as we understand it in the 21st century. So everywhere that global colonialism and hand in hand with that is global capitalism, and global, between colonialism and capitalism are intricately connected and are inseparable for all intents and purposes. You don't have colonialism probably without capitalism of some form. We don't have modern colonialism in the way that we experience it today without capitalism. So anywhere on the globe where Western capital has touched indigenous populations that were living there, by and large prior to European intrusion, prior to Western society, Western Europe showing up, and later the United States. Also Russia, China. It's not as though this concept of sort of colonizing other places began with Western Europe, but certainly much of what we experience in the world today in terms of geopolitics and in terms of art which represents that geopolitics, then we're going to be left with oftentimes indigenous populations speaking back to Western capital. And you'll see this in the stuff that we're going to read for the most part. You're going to read 3 books, 3 different pieces. The first book is really short. It's an old traditional tale called Two Old Women. It's by Velma Wallace, who is Gwich'in and Athabascan from up in Alaska. You'll read her work in the first week. You'll need to read, if you look in the syllabus, all the readings are in the order in which we'll read them. And so, let me make sure of that as I say it. Hang on, I'm just opening up the syllabus. Make sure it's on the syllabus in that way. Yeah. So Two Old Women by Velma Wallace will be the first book that we're going to read. That's available to you online. If you look on the course webpage, you look at, sorry, it's my dog, and you look at Wallace, Two Old Women, that's the reading that you'll need to complete for the first week. And I'll check back in when this class, opens up on the 17th. I'll check in and I'll have a weekly announcement that week as well, reminding you that you need to read Wallace's Two Old Women. And then every week I'll check in and tell you about how much you should read. But you're going to read Wallace's Two Old Women, and then you're going to read Leslie Silkel's Almanac of the Dead. And then we're going to read, to finish things up, Potiki by Patricia Grace. All women writers, all indigenous writers, and we'll kind of go from Silkel's work is this grand sort of narrative. It's the biggest book that we'll read in the class, maybe the biggest book you've ever read. It's a 763-page novel. Don't worry, we're going to spend the bulk of the semester reading that novel, and we'll talk about more why later. It's a bizarre novel. I can only ask that you, once you start reading it, be sure to finish it. You'll be happy that you did, or maybe not. But that's the book that we're going to read. So that's sort of experimental. That we'll only be reading, 3 books, and one of them we'll be reading for the majority of the semester. So each week you're going to have some reading to do, and then you're going to have to do a discussion post, and then you're going to need to eventually write one paper. The discussion post is going to be interesting. I'll talk about that real quick. Take a look at it in the syllabus and how it's described. But also I want you to just find some item. Like I'm going to open up a discussion post for each week. If you click under discussion, you'll see a help section where you may need just to ask for help for anything in the class. And then you'll also see 15 different discussion posts. These go for the first 15 weeks of the course. So every week you'll need to, what I say, it's all here in the instructions, but you'll need to provide some kind of a link or a bibliographic citation of your source. I want you to find some source that has to deal with some topic as it affects an indigenous community someplace, indigenous community someplace in the globe, right? So any kind of search is valid. Internet, PBS videos, any type of video, YouTube videos, any kind of information that's circulating out there on the net, I want you to investigate it for some topic on indigeneity. You can investigate on the same topic every week, I guess, if you wanted to do that, but you'll need to provide a different link every week. Just whatever interests you, in as much as you think that it may touch an indigenous community, approach your research from that angle. And we'll talk about more about this as we go through. I provide an example for you about what I'm talking about each week, and it's the same example each week, but this is essentially what I'm looking for. You would click on the link, you would watch this video about Choctaws in Louisiana losing land because of climate change. And they're the first community, and my remarks are there as to the kind of remarks that I think that I would be looking for. You can also take a critical approach if you wanted to, and think about these discussions each week. So I think there's 22 of us by the time right now when I'm making this video. There might be 25 by the time the course ends. Each week, all of you will post a different link. Hopefully, maybe sometimes it'll be the same, but usually most all of you will always post a different link. And so then we'll be building up a body of sort of online evidence that you'll be using to sort of write your summative essay towards the end. But I want us as a class to sort of build this reading list of web links, and if it's bibliographic citations, fine. I'll attempt to sort of locate a scholarly article for you if that's what you want to read. But I'm really looking more for, I think, contemporary online journalism, right? Contemporary electronic journalism. And whatever the contemporary narrative is, it doesn't need to be written necessarily by an indigenous person, and the information doesn't need to generate specifically from an indigenous community, but that would be very thoughtful, and I will certainly be supplying you with various sources like News from Indian Country Today. Believe it or not, American Indian communities have been writing with newspapers and online and periodicals for a very long time. So we're just going to investigate all the information that's out there, and we're going to use that to help us inform our readings for the course. All right. I'll have more to say about each of the readings each week as we sort of end them up. Most of these videos will probably run about 10 minutes. If I ever find the need to sort of talk over, I will, but I think usually anything beyond 10 minutes, people get sick of listening. Anytime you may have any questions at all about anything, I want you to know that you can reach out to me, you can text me, you could call me if it's that important. You can email me. I'll respond in a very timely manner. You guys are the only course that I'm teaching that I'm going to be teaching this spring, so you've got my undivided attention. Other than that, sometimes I teach in local prisons, so I might be starting to teach in the Washington State prisons here. I like to teach literature and writing courses, creative writing courses, inside departments of corrections for some strange reason. That's me. If you feel, we'll sort of forego any sort of formal introduction by students. I think it would always be good to sort of say hello, maybe in the first week, just to sort of let people know who you are. But I'll certainly respond to everybody in kind. I'm going to take a pretty active role in this online course. I'm not teaching any face-to-face, and I'm not writing in a writing center. I am working as a full-time academic advisor. That will maybe influence when I'm available during the day. I won't be able to get a hold of you, but I will be able to respond to you by like 7 o'clock each evening or something. All right, I guess let's just see how this goes. Any questions at all, let me know. I'll continue to sort of send you guys announcements and keep you sort of up to date. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, bye.